We are live.
We're live.
Welcome to this week's episode of the RDU Buzz, where we go over all things Raleigh-Durham, triangle-wide news, developments, real estate market, other things going on. We are excited that you guys are here and watching. So if you're catching this as a replay later or live tonight, be sure to let us know in the comments where you are tuning in from.
Yep.
We love to just see where everybody's watching from, and people can kind of connect in the comments, which is really fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I hope everyone had a good 4th of July last week. It was hot here.
Hot.
It was crazy. The heat index here, I was actually talking with someone about this today. The heat index here on Friday, which was the day after 4th of July, was 115.
I thought it was 108.
I think it was 115. Is it either 108 or 100? I mean, is there a difference at that point? There's not a substantial difference.
Probably not.
It's all crazy hot. So, but anyway, I hope y'all had a great 4th, and it's good to be back. So we got some. We're gonna dig into some housing data tonight because I think it's important to continue to look at updated data, especially with the market continuing to slow down.
Yeah, it's been a little sneaky market this summer, trying to come in and surprise people, and things have been just taking us a little bit by surprise in a way, in May and June. And now that July is here, it feels like, okay, we've had a little bit of time to digest maybe what's going on, and we have a little more data to back up our opinions.
We do. So obviously it's July now. So now we have June data. The last time we talked about the housing market several weeks ago, we had May's data. And so,
which is really when it kind of started to turn. And when you're looking at tonight, June's data is going to be reflected of people who really went under contract in May. Things kind of can lag a little bit, but what we were talking about in May is going to be kind of showing up now in today's
exactly. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're seeing in the market, give a little update there, and probably niche it down a little bit and talk about some specific areas as well. And then we're going to talk about some updates going on. An interesting study that I'm pretty excited to talk about tonight as well. So anyway, all right, digging into the market, I'm going to share our screen here so you can see it. So obviously the very end of that line is June. It's June data. So homes for sale, we continue to see. So homes for sale is essentially the data point that looks at inventory. That's essentially what inventory is. How many active homes are currently for sale? Triangle wide, the inventory was up 10%. So another double-digit increase of inventory. We saw a double-digit increase in May. We saw it again in June. And this is compared to last June. So it's a 10% increase based on what we saw last June.
Yeah. So it's not a 10% increase from May. It's a 10% increase from June of 2023.
Yeah. Though we did see, May was roughly 7,000 active homes, and then June was 7,300. So not a substantial increase month over month, but year over year, that is a substantial increase. We're roughly where we were in September of last year, which is pretty wild because September is typically
that's when things started
peak,
to
roughly.
Yeah, in September, I really feel
September, October is typically a peak.
Yeah, in general, seasonally is a peak, but also
for inventory
in our market, that's when we really started seeing the interest rates start ticking up a lot, and so that kind of put the brakes on a lot of people's decisions of maybe I should wait to move because if I sell my house now, I'm stuck. I have a 4% interest rate, and if I sell my house, it's going to be this is when things were getting up from September to December last year, almost up to, eventually to 8%. So,
yep, exactly. So I want to pull up Raleigh because Raleigh's pretty staggering. So homes for sale increase is 15% inventory increase. That is crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
It's wild.
So, and that's year over year. We'll put in Cary. Not every area is the same. Obviously, the triangle is pretty diverse when it comes to housing market. Cary's 16% increase of inventory. We'll throw in Wake Forest, see what Wake Forest is.
And if you're watching and you want to know about a town in specific, feel free to shoot it in the comments and we'll definitely bring up that data too.
Inventory in Wake Forest is actually down compared year over year. Now, if you take this and you do resale, which I like to do, it puts it in a different light. So when you think about, we just did a video on this that'll probably be out in a couple weeks, but when you think about whether a market is hot or cold, you typically are thinking about the resale market. You're not typically thinking about new construction. I mean, new construction is obviously important. It's an option that's available. But when you think about a hot or cold market, it's typically resale, because new construction is typically what it is. There's availability. Most likely, it's not most likely competitive. There could be competitive, like a competitive nature to it, but it's not always competitive. And so when you pull out new construction, it changes the numbers, and it changes the numbers significantly. So I mean, you look at these inventory numbers. Raleigh, just resale, right? Just the resale inventory on the market is up 25%.
Yeah, that's
25%
crazy. Yeah, because obviously
from
with new
last year.
construction, they're not like losing. It's not like someone's having to move out of that house, and so it does, change. That's why we're kind of pulling it out, because it kind of those are sold as a product, whereas a house that's resale was someone else's home previously, and they obviously had their own investment into that, and it's just kind of different and skews the data. So that's why
and when you're thinking about, and when you're a seller, like you should be looking at the resale data and not the data that also includes new construction, because that's the legitimate data that affects you at the end of the day as a seller. Right. So Raleigh inventory is up 25%, resale. Cary is up 42% compared to last year for resale.
Crazy. 42%.
That's insane.
That is insane. And Crystal would like to know about Fuquay.
Yeah, we'll add Fuquay. Wake Forest is up almost 10%. Let's add Fuquay in here. So Fuquay, if you're looking just at resale, is up almost 12%. So 11.8% as far as inventory goes. So, every single one of these areas, Triangle Wide 16%. Every one of these areas is a double-digit increase, or close to a double-digit. Wake Forest wasn't quite, but close to a double-digit increase as far as inventory goes, which essentially just communicates more sellers listing their homes and less buyers buying those homes.
Yeah, so I mean, a slower market. I think in general, it's funny because we're still lacking majorly in inventory. But I think, when people, theorize different issues with why, nationwide, why, and really worldwide, I feel like it's a problem. But nationwide, why is it so hard to find a house? And we're like millions of units behind, like they say, to have enough housing to meet the demand, we would need like millions more units in the country.
Raleigh, the Zillow number that we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think Raleigh was 17,000 units short.
So seeing this stuff increase, but the days on market kind of go down, in general, even with these increases, we're not seeing a price drop at this point in time. So people aren't not significant though. It's not like we're like crashing down.
Yeah, not.
But I think this just leads to showing, with the interest rates as high as they are and the pricing of the houses being about 50% higher than they were before the pandemic, things are just unaffordable. Even though more is coming to the market, for the most part, it's not typically affordable options. So, for like a first time buyer or young, kind of just graduated college, just getting started in their career. It's hard. It
is. And I mean, so talking about prices, because I think one of the most important metrics is how much money your seller's getting for their home compared to what they listed it for. I mean, that tells you a lot about the market. And it's really fascinating. So Raleigh is 98.4%. So that essentially means the average buyer is getting a home.
Seller.
Yeah. Sorry. The average seller is, the average buyer is getting the home for 1.5% less.
Right.
Than what it's listed for. And I mean, when you're talking a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house, like that's a lot of money.
It is. Yeah. 2% doesn't sound good. If I went to the store and they said we're having a 2% off sale, I'd be like, really? Why are you advertising that? But when you talk about a product that's this expensive, it's significant.
It is significant. And so Raleigh's seeing that. Fuquay is seeing 97.9%. So that's 2.1% less than the list price is what the average buyer is getting for their home. And so Cary's holding strong, which is typical of Cary, right?
It's not
Cary,
surprising.
Yeah, Cary's a tough market. Cary's holding strong at 100.6. And so, but in general, what this communicates to me is buyers have far more leverage than they used to. And on average, with the average house, they're getting it for under asking price by 1%-ish or so.
Yeah.
Which is pretty interesting to see. So, and this kind of goes hand in hand. So last time we talked about Zillow projections of our area, and seeing a slight price decrease over the next 12 months. So the 12 months was May 2024 to May 2025. And this is how you get there is you see month after month after month of Raleigh having 98.4% list price received. And then you see a little bit of a price decline as a result of that. Whether that turns out to be true or not is yet to be seen.
We'll see.
But
I think a lot of it will come down to interest rates.
It will.
And at this point in time, there's not a lot of hope. I think that they're going to
good data that
significantly drop this year. Yeah, but I think people are holding out, expecting like them to be in the 5s or something, and that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So hopefully we can at least get to the low 6s. Would make things a little more affordable for people. But
Crystal asked a really great question. She said, we've noticed a lot of resale houses coming back on the market after pending. Are y'all seeing that? To a degree, I don't have a statistic on it. I know that, it just happened to one of our listings actually. It doesn't surprise me to see that. I think, when you're talking about a market that's slower, where buyers have more leverage, those buyers are going to be pickier. They're going to have less money on the line. So due diligence is a great example, right? So due diligence in a competitive market here really goes crazy. It's not unsurprising to see people put $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 into due diligence. Obviously, you're not going to back out of a contract when you're doing that.
Right. But if you put, to back up a little bit for someone that doesn't know, that's a non-refundable deposit that the buyer pays and the seller gets to keep. So if you put $20,000 down, you're not going to easily walk away from it. You always have a legal right to, but you're not going to want to lose that money. But if you are getting a house under the listed price, you're not probably going to have a $20,000
your due diligence in that situation is probably, maybe it's $1,500, maybe it's $2,000, maybe it's $3,000 at the most.
Right. Which feels a little easier to lose.
Depending on the price of the home, obviously. But in those situations, it's easier to walk away from the house for whatever reason, whether you just get cold feet or you get the inspection report back and it's a little worse than you thought it was going to be. It's just easier in that situation to back out. And so we have noticed buyers are getting more and more picky with homes, and I'm sure that applies within contracts as well. Buyers are getting more and more picky under contract because they don't have as much on the line.
Yeah.
So but that's a really great observation. So but I think in general, the June data reinforces what we saw in May. And in my opinion, we haven't hit the seasonality of the market yet.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
I think we're headed
once September, where it typically kind of, people get settled in for the new school year. And then all of a sudden it's Halloween. And somehow, everybody celebrates these things sooner and sooner every year. There's already Halloween stuff out at Costco last weekend. I was like, it's crazy. The weekend following July 4th. Summer. Why is there I walk in and it's Halloween decorations, Halloween costumes. I'm really glad I didn't bring the kids with me to Costco today, because they would have insisted on buying a Halloween costume that in October they're going to have zero interest in anymore. But those things, people's mind just starts getting, pretty much you get past Labor Day and people are already thinking about the holiday season and they're just not in the mood to put their house on the market.
Yeah. And so in general, we start to see a seasonal slowdown, late August, September. And that's kind of when the market begins its kind of winding down for the year, so to speak. And we haven't hit that yet. And so to see what we're seeing, that's why I brought up the point that the inventory level we see in June is about what we see in September. And so, we haven't hit hit the seasonal market yet. And so I think when we do hit the seasonal market, I think the slowdown that we'll have could be pretty substantial this fall.
Yeah, because and we might not have as many listings hitting the market in September and October, because people don't typically put their house up for sale. But if stuff is sitting for longer and longer, I think the fall could shape up to be a really great time to buy a house as a buyer in the market. Yeah, minus
I mean, there's always
interest
pros and cons.
But compared to a similar interest rate, even this time last year, I feel like it was still a little more competitive than it is now, on some dependent upon the houses. So if you you're going to be stuck with like something close to 7 for the rest of the year, it could be, it's good for buyers. Gives you a little more wiggle room to try to, maybe you still offered the 100% of the listed price, but you asked for a credit to help with the interest rate buy down to kind of help out with that kind of stuff. That's something you couldn't have done back in April. So
yeah, exactly. So that's market update. June's data reinforces a lot of what we already knew. And I think July's data is going to reinforce all that we've said.
Yeah,
so that's my projection.
And for anyone that has just kind of started tuning in since the beginning, please feel free to ask us any questions you have, even if they are not related to the top. I mean, let it be related to the area. But if you have questions about the triangle in general, feel free to shoot them in the comments, and we will get those answered for you, and let us know where you're watching from. And Crystal said, "Happy Independence, Labor, Halloween, thanks, Christmas."
That's what it feels like.
Feels like
that's what it feels like. It is. Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah. So, moving on to the next topic, it's actually a really big deal for Clayton. We didn't talk about this last time, did we? Because I had it on my list too, and I think I nixed it.
No, I think we ran out of time. Yeah.
So, Novo Nordisk. Tough to say for me. It's a pharmaceutical company. They have announced an expansion, doubling the combined square footage of the company's existing 3 facilities in Clayton and Durham. They're going to invest $4.1 billion into a new facility. It's going to bring 1,000 jobs into the area.
Crazy,
which is substantial, and it's kind of cool because so they have an initial site that was in Clayton. I don't know. I should probably know this since we're going to talk about it. Where the site. The new site is in Clayton. I was thinking it was. So the new site is in Clayton, which is honestly really good. I'm happy for Clayton. This is a really big deal.
Great, because there's so much of a housing boom in Clayton over like the last decade, and not a ton of industry out there. I mean, there is stuff out there, but I feel like most of the people that live there are commuting from a job in Raleigh or maybe work remotely. So I think it's great to get some people that, maybe some in-person work happening out there. And these would be good, high-paying jobs, I imagine, a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, and I mean, so it looks like the location in Clayton now produces ingredients for the oral treatment of their type 2 diabetes drug. But anyway, they announced this not too long after they announced the Apple delay. And I don't know, it just shows, I mean, there was some I don't say negativity around Apple, but just in general, I think kind of just like a bummed attitude about it. But this is a company moving forward with what they have already promised to do. And I think it's a really big deal for Clayton.
Yeah,
I'm really excited
for Clayton. Now, if Target could follow suit, I know that other Claytonites would be really excited.
Yeah,
they really want to Target.
They do.
So Target, I know you're watching. You're loyal followers of us, and you should put a Target in Clayton.
Yeah, I mean, Clayton does.
And
Clayton
North
does
Durham.
deserve. Clayton
and
does deserve
Northgate Mall
a
in Durham,
Target,
like we talked about. Yeah, we need more Targets. But not in Raleigh. We need them in the other towns.
Yeah, and I mean, talking about that, some of the lacking aspects of, and I mean, we get comments about it from folks in Clayton, but some of the lacking aspects of Clayton is the lack of the commercial space. When I talk about commercial space, I mean grocery store options, shopping options, retail options.
There's a lot of fast food kind of stuff out there, and there is a decent amount of grocery stores, but not I guess I guess they have a lot of, there's like a Publix and there's a Harris Teeter, but they don't have like a Wegmans or anything yet. But yeah, people do complain. They really want a Target.
when you bring in, when a company like this brings in 1,000 more jobs into an area with a new facility, that's what leads to those things being built.
Right.
And so that's a really big deal.
Yeah. So maybe it's on the horizon.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Maybe so. This has nothing to do with our area, but I thought it was kind of cool. I think it was the most expensive home sale in North Carolina ever happened on Figure Eight Island.
Really, really cool.
I don't know them about Figure Eight Island, but I know you know a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it and stuff. I've never traveled there or anything like that.
Yeah, $14 million paid for a house on Figure Eight Island, which is a small island off the coast of Wilmington.
But if you watch the Netflix show Outer Banks, they say that they're going to Figure Eight Island in the Outer Banks.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, they always get their geography. You know, they also took the ferry over to Chapel Hill in that show. So yeah, they do get a little confused about the North Carolina geography. But it's like a Wilmington. You know, you take a boat over there from like Wrightsville Beach or something.
Yeah, it was one of the most expensive home sales ever in North Carolina. 6,700 square feet, 5 beds, 8 baths. Closed July 3rd. Wow, I mean that's like when I think of like $14 million
picture of it.
Yeah, when I think of $14 million pieces of real estate, I really don't think of North Carolina in that. Obviously, like our area, I don't think our area will ever. I mean, I hope it does. Like I hope it doesn't, but I don't think our area could ever produce a $14 million piece of real estate.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. But that's fascinating that North Carolina can't either. The only other place I would think would be able to pull that off would be like a Lake Norman.
Yeah, like Lake Norman, Asheville, something like more luxury vacation.
Asheville.
Well, there's a lot of like luxury vacation homes. You got you got some big stuff out there.
Yeah, I guess so.
If the Biltmore ever sold, it would definitely beat.
The Biltmore. I mean, you can't even if you've never been to the Biltmore house, it has like 1,000 rooms and is this massive.
It has 1,000 rooms.
It's too many. If you ever do a tour of the Biltmore, it's cool.
Zach has no respect for historical property.
It's cool for like 2 minutes, and then after a while, it's the same thing. It's just another room.
It's so cool. You guys, if you've never been and you travel to North Carolina, it's about 4 hours from here, but it's really cool. It's like supposed to be the biggest house in America. Has a lot of history to it. So.
Yeah. So anyway, all right, moving on. This article, and we'll probably close out with this one. The Triangle was named. This was in Axios, but the Triangle was named one of the hottest spots for retirees in the country. And this is really fascinating to me. So when you look at, like, obviously you got this chart here of percentage population change for folks who are 65 and older. And this was between the years 2020 and 2023. But you look at our metro, and it looks like they split up the Raleigh Cary metro and the Durham Chapel Hill metro. But both,
they love to do that on Axios.
So
I'm like, it's the same area. You just give us one bubble.
Well, I mean, it is different census data, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying.
I don't know.
But it's really fascinating to me because you look at Florida, you would expect.
Yeah, you would think Florida would just be a giant dark purple bubble.
Yeah, just based on what people think about Florida, you would think Florida would be the place with the dark, but it's not. Our area has more dark bubbles, so to speak, than Florida does. And it's fascinating to me. I have spoken to 4 people from Florida this week looking to move to the area. 4.
It's very interesting.
And it's only been 4 days of the week.
Yeah.
Like we're on day number 4. But it's really interesting to me because I do think that there is a somewhat of an exodus. I mean, Florida is obviously still has a huge positive net migration into the state of Florida. I don't think that's changing anytime soon, but it is fascinating to me to see how many folks we are starting to speak to. And it tends to be grouped in the summer. I've noticed, I think it gets really hot and people are
Well, I
like,
hope they
okay,
didn't
this
travel
is
here
too,
this week
this
because
is
it
too
feels
much.
I think we looked a few times. We were like, what's the weather like in Orlando today? And we're like, oh, it's actually maybe cooler in
Yeah.
Orlando than it is in Raleigh today because it's just been super hot this
Yeah,
week.
but it's hot for so much longer in
Oh,
Florida
yeah,
than
it's
it is
like
here.
never
Like,
I
it's
mean,
not.
they just have
It's not.
summer and then, like, wintertime is just like a little spring, you
Yeah.
know? It's like nothing.
But like, I mean, this is really, it's really fascinating. And a decent number of the folks who reach out to us from Florida are, not everyone, I would say maybe half are within that kind of retirement age
Yeah.
where they're in Florida and they're tired of the heat, or they're tired of the
Hurricanes
yeah,
or
or just the insurance
the
costs in
insurance is
general. I
so
mean, you look at
expensive.
Florida insurance costs, it's
Yeah.
crazy. And they're kind of and they're tired of it. So they're moving back to a more mild climate. Maybe they don't want to move all the way back north, but they're moving back to a more mild climate. And so it doesn't really surprise me. And I think developers obviously know this statistic, because you look at how many 55 and up communities are
We
being
have a
built
lot.
in our region, and it is substantial.
Yeah, it is.
They're all going up all over the place.
Right. And we have excellent healthcare here too. So
We
there's
do.
a lot of great reasons for someone, hitting that stage of life to want to live here. And if they were like leaving Florida and coming up, or just, coming down further south or other parts of the country. But I've always heard the term, and I thought it was kind of funny. Like, people will leave like New Jersey or New York, they'll move to Florida, and then they'll have exactly those thoughts. Like you mentioned, like, it's too hot down here, or I'm worried about hurricanes. And so I'll move halfway back, and they call them halfbacks.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I mean, it's just, this is not overly surprising to me to see this, but this was interesting too. So, I mean, there was an 18% growth, but of 65 and 65 plus, as far as an age group, grew at 18% increase. 40 to 64 grew at almost a 6% increase. 25 to 39 at a 7% increase. And then the other demographic, I mean, those are kids. I don't even know.
They're making all the choices.
Yeah, I don't think
it's odd to like include anyone under 18 in this.
I don't think a 15-year-old
okay.
is making. Yeah, I don't.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's.
I mean,
weird.
they come with their family, obviously, but they're not buying properties, so it's interesting.
Yeah, but I do think our area is becoming a destination for retirees.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of great reasons for it.
Yeah.
I mean, the people that we do talk to that want to come here to retire, they might be following a child that's having a grandchild that moved this way for work, maybe during the pandemic, or like we mentioned, like having the Duke healthcare system is really appealing to a lot of people. And you still have winter. It's not like you come here and escape all the cold, but you do escape the constant snow shoveling and things like that. So, but it's still hot here in the summer too, but it's a better balance. You have your 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So.
And like we see a lot of studies, and honestly, we cover on here a lot of studies of, Raleigh was named the top place for millennials, or the top place for college graduates, or, top place for Gen Z, or whatever it is.
But then you see this graph and you're like, holy cow, 18% of people that moved here in the last 4 years were in 65 and up. Like, that's just
well, it's an 18% increase of
18%.
Of population size. But you don't this is the first one I've seen that looked at that demographic and how substantial and how much
wild,
like the percent increase is substantially more than folks who are millennials or Gen Z or anything like that. So I think Raleigh is, and Durham, it's the new retirement place. Apparently
so. Yeah.
So I think it's pretty cool. All right. Well, that is all that I have tonight. You got anything else you want to cover?
No, nothing else I want to cover. Yeah. If you're catching the replay later, definitely let us know where you're watching from. And if you are catching the replay later and you wanted to know more data, like what we talked about at the beginning of the video of housing specific to like Cary or Chapel Hill, like whatever town, feel free to put in the comments. We always reply to the comments.
Absolutely.
So
sometimes
definitely
quicker than other times.
Yeah. So anytime you have a question, you're even watching this later, feel free to put it on the YouTube comments and we'll get it answered for you. Yeah, absolutely. Well, y'all, it was great to be back, and we will see y'all next Thursday. All right. Bye, y'all. Bye.